our Mission Month webinar. For the next hour or less, we'll celebrate and create awareness around mission. So, Céad Míle Fáilte. The format for the night is we've an opening prayer and song from the pupils of St. Oliver's Primary School, Killarney. Then our special guest is Father Liam O'Callaghan, coming to us live from Pakistan. We've a piece of music which will give you a chance to reflect and to send you in questions if you have any, and that's followed by Sylvia Thompson telling us a little bit about Missio Ireland. Back to the questions. At this stage, you probably know, but if you look on your screen, there's a Q&A button there, and we would absolutely welcome questions from you. It'll make the night a better night, and it's always lovely to feel if you have something to ask, you know, it's great to have an opportunity to ask it, so please do. So, without much ado, let's begin with St. Oliver's, Killarney.
Today we're going to pray for all the children of the world.
For the children of Africa. For the children of Europe. For the children of the Americas. For the children of Oceania. For the children of Asia.
Our God is a great
Well done to St. Oliver's Clarny there. Now, if that doesn't put a smile on your face, nothing will. Our special guest tonight, as I mentioned, is Liam O'Callaghan. Liam is an Irish Columban priest who's been working in Pakistan for over 20 years. He spent 16 years in Lahore, in the northern part of Pakistan, and the last 6 years in Hyderabad, in the Sindh region of Pakistan. I looked it up before tonight to get a bit of clarity around it. So just to give you a few interesting facts about Pakistan that I didn't know, it has a population of 240 million. The capital is Islamabad. The language is Urdu and English and many other languages. It's the fourth largest irrigation system in the world. It's the second largest salt mines in the world also. And for us tonight, it's interesting to think that 96% of its population is Muslim and there are 1.7% Christians. Now, you have all heard about Pakistan during the summer because of the horrific flooding. It was all over the news. And we can only call what's happening in Pakistan climate carnage. Talking to us tonight from Hyderabad, Pakistan, on the theme of mission, welcome, Father Liam.
Thank you very much, Mary. And thank you also to the Kerry group, mission group, who have organized this webinar. So it's lovely to be with you and nice just to share a little bit about life in Pakistan and what mission looks like in this part of the world. I suppose every year during Mission Sunday, or Mission Month, as it's now called, it's a chance for us to have a look at what mission actually is, a chance for us to reflect and maybe to change our thinking and change our ways of being. And sometimes I think that when we think of mission, very often there is too much emphasis given to what we call professional missionaries, like myself, maybe priests and sisters who go overseas primarily, was how we understood it in the past. But a proper understanding of mission, I think, is that every baptized Christian and everybody in the church is on mission. We are called to be on mission, and all of us, in whatever walk of life we're in, whatever job, whatever position we have, if we live out the values of the gospel in a loving and caring way, we are profoundly on mission and we are witnesses in a really profound way. And I think that's an important point that we should keep in mind. So maybe just very briefly, just some background on myself. My name is Liam O'Callaghan. I'm from County Waterford, and I've been with the Columban missionaries and spent over 22 years in Pakistan. As Mary just said there, I was about 16 years in Hyderabad, in Lahore city, and then for the last 6.5 years I've been down here in Sindh province in the south, in Hyderabad city, and two very different areas, but in a sense the same country, same problems, but different experiences of it. So to go back a little further, the Columbans came here in 1979, so we're here about 43 years at this stage, and there's two reasons, I suppose, for being here. One was an invitation from the Catholic bishops of Pakistan to missionary groups to come and help the local church here, help build up the Christian community. At that time, there was very few local indigenous religious priests or sisters, and a very small community of, as Mary said, 1.7%. And the second reason was that at that time, after Vatican II, with the new openness to mission in terms of engaging with people of other faiths, there was a real outreach to working with Muslims to try and build up Muslim-Christian relations, and it was seen that a mission in Pakistan would help to fulfill that. So those were the two kind of pillars for the beginning of the Columban mission in Pakistan, and they are still, to a large extent, main priorities for our work here. So as I said, for over 16 years, I was in Lahore city. Lahore is, I suppose, the cosmopolitan capital of the country. It was always a significant cultural city, and right down through the ages. Really lovely aspects to it. It also has huge areas of poverty, but it was a city full of life and energy, and part of the Punjab province, which is the most prosperous and biggest province of the country. So the majority of the Christians in the country are of Punjabi background, and the majority of them live in the Punjab province. And Lahore city would have the biggest number of Christians and parishes. So during those years, the Columbus would have been instrumental in setting up a number of parishes and building them up and moving on, handing them over to the diocese. And I was involved in two of those parishes. And very much the work, I suppose, of any parish of just building up the Christian community. Education is a huge need here, so there's always a focus on schools and trying to get people educated. Is seen as really the only way to help people come out of poverty. Health is always a main concern for people who are in poverty. And those are the main issues that we were involved in. So as well as those normal issues of education, working with Christians, building up the local parish, health work, we also try to focus on what we saw as missionary priorities, such as justice and peace work, working for justice, and also interreligious, engaging with Muslims in Lahore in particular. And that's not easy because many of the Christians there feel vulnerable, feel discriminated against, and there's often no appetite to engage with Muslims who they often see as actually discriminating against them. So that was a lot of my work over those years. And I suppose maybe just to pick out two highlights of what looking back on what I think were kind of missionary successes among many failures, it has to be said. One would be education. For example, in the very first parish the Columbus began in '84, a kind of a profound decision was taken that at least 20% of the students in that school would be Muslim. So, instead of creating a Christian ghetto of just Christians only, it was decided from the very beginning to have Muslims as part of the school. And that has maintained right through the years. So you have Christian and Muslim students as teachers working together side by side. And over the last 25 years in that parish, it is significant to see how people have begun to accept each other, to become friends, to know each other, and to build up relations. So just the success of that policy of putting people together, bringing people together, working together has paid off. And I was there for over 7 years, and I certainly could see it, and it was lovely to see happening. Another example, a lot of our work in interfaith and Muslim-Christian dialogue is often a struggle, and I think in the context of a lot of extremism which has happened in the last 40 plus years. For example, I think a lot of it goes back to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and it took a very fundamentalist kind of theme, and out of that struggle in Afghanistan, the Al-Qaeda and Taliban were born. And that extremism has colored and shaped the country for the following 40 years up to now. That extremism comes in all sorts of shapes and forms: terrible violence against minorities, even against other Muslims who they consider to be not proper Muslims of their thinking, extremism, sectarianism, attacks on minorities, and that has really damaged the country in all sorts of ways. So, dialogue and trying to bring Muslims and Christians together in that context is all the more difficult. And I suppose in the light of that, one particular example stands out for me, and that's a health project that we began in Lahore about 15 years ago now. And it's still running, and it's a trust hospital run by philanthropists, all Muslim people who have set up this trust hospital. All the doctors are Muslim, most of the nurses are Christian, and we have this project there over the last 15 years where the poorest of the poor, mainly Christians, but Muslims as well, are brought there and get quality care and treatment. So it's one kind of a little oasis in the desert of struggle, where people of goodwill, people of different faiths who work together, who have respect for each other, produce amazing results. And I'm just very, very happy to be part of that. And it's something that is really inspiring. And it certainly has led to a lot of good results and a lot of healing for a lot of people because of that relationship and that respect. So it is possible, even in the midst of a lot of struggle and violence and suspicion. So that was a lot of our work in Lahore. In the last few years in Lahore, I began to become more and more involved in environmental issues. The situation was getting worse and worse in terms of environmental problems. There was also a kind of a growing awareness of the issue, and especially in the lead up to 2015, the Paris Agreement, there was big hope that something could happen in that. So that we were involved in a lot of awareness programs, trying to get people involved, all sorts of issues around the environment. And with that, also trying to work on interfaith. I became more involved in the last few years there, trying to work on this, seeing as it just is hugely important that people can come to just live together in peace and not get sucked into suspicion or violence. So then around 2014-15, our Columban numbers were dropping in the country, and we were in two areas. One was Lahore and the second was down here in Sindh, about 1,000 kilometers apart. So it became unviable just to keep two areas going, so far apart. So this decision was taken to close Lahore, and the last two of us left Lahore in 2016, and now we're all down here in Sindh province, working in the diocese of Hyderabad. So when I came down here, then I was, I suppose I tried to be in a new way. I didn't get involved in parish work, and I became the Justice and Peace coordinator for the Columbans, JPIC, Integrity of Creation. So it was working on justice issues and environmental issues. And I kind of tagged on the title IRD, which is Interreligious Dialogue. So the thinking was to try and do it, working on justice issues or environmental issues from an interfaith perspective, to try to bring people together from whatever background, working on these common issues which affect us all. So that's been the theory. There's been some successes and many failures, but dialogue is not just about doctrine and talking about faith. Sometimes that leads into a bit of a cul-de-sac, and so this is a new venture, a new way of trying to do dialogue on common issues. So that's what I've been doing primarily for the last 6 years or more, and there's a Columban worker with me, Danish, who's very good, has lots of experience in this area, and we've been working on. I also became the coordinator of the diocesan ecology commission. So at that time, we translated Pope Francis's encyclical on the environment into the Urdu language and distributed that and tried to get people interested in that, and had all these awareness seminars in schools and parishes and communities, trying to work on these issues. So over the last 5 or 6 years, I've become more and more involved in environmental issues out of all of that, simply because two main reasons. One, I just mentioned the emphasis from Pope Francis, where he's, this encyclical in 2015, Laudato Si, has put a huge onus on the church to take this issue seriously. That is now official church doctrine, church teaching, that we have, it's part of our duty to care for creation. And that gave the work a great sort of boost. And the second thing is just the reality that the climate crisis is so bad here in Pakistan. You've all heard about the floods, as Mary mentioned at the beginning. But a recent climate index report from the NGO German Watch, who work on this issue of climate research, and over a 20-year period, their research says that from 2000 to 2019, Pakistan was the 8th most vulnerable country in the world to climate change. And how they sort of identified that was that they said that over that period of 20 years, there were 173 extreme weather events all sorts of typhoons and heat waves, flooding, extreme, really out of the ordinary extreme events, leading directly, they claim, to 10,000 deaths directly from those weather events. So the flooding this year didn't come from nowhere. For the last 20 years at least, and maybe more, it's been coming, that the effects of climate change, the increasing heat, and I've seen it the last decade, year on year it's getting warmer, in the mid 40s for 2 months at least, all the time, just tremendous heat. But this year just took the biscuit. For 6 months, we've been in a climate crisis in terms of just full 6 months from March until September. March was the hottest March, one of the hottest months on record for March, with 62% less rainfall than normal. And then by April, you're into a full-blown heat wave. So the heat wave lasted a full month across Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, which is unheard of to have such heat in April. So early, it's really, really worrying. And then, even though the heat wave officially ended in June, beginning of May, for May and June, it was still very hot, early to mid 40s, right up until the end of June. And then the flooding started. So that you had this tremendous flooding. In Sindh here, we had 2 months of constant rain, July and August, nonstop, where 466%, over almost 5 times above average rainfall, fell in those 2 months. So the figures are just horrendous. We read figures like 30 million people affected. Here in Sindh alone, 1.5 million homes damaged or destroyed. Thousands of health centers and schools damaged. Thousands of livestock killed. Thousands and thousands of kilometers of road destroyed and bridges destroyed. So the infrastructure has been so damaged that the news sort of headlines don't begin to even capture just how bad it was and will be for months and even years to come. So without a shadow of doubt, if ever there was a doubt, it is climate crisis just gone completely out of control. This year you had 3 major climate factors coming together. You had extreme heat wave, heat for months. You had the extreme rainfall in July, August. And on top of that, then you have the melting of the glaciers. There are over 7,000 glaciers in northern Pakistan, right across the Himalayan region, and they are melting quicker than ever. So that melt water really added to the flooding during the flooding of July and August. So those massive factors of heat, glacial melt, and extreme monsoon rains came together in a horrendous way during the last 2 months. So yeah, it leaves people absolutely vulnerable. Millions of people are still homeless. Crops have been destroyed. This school year is a write-off for many, many schools across the province. So you're looking at a major crisis, and the country will be set back for years. And it's the worst situation that I've ever seen by a long shot. So that's, I suppose, some of just the reality of what we are facing with, and the people much worse than us trying to survive in those horrendous conditions. And that's the reality of our world today, that if you look across the news of the last 6 months, it's not just Pakistan, but right across the globe, in Europe, America, China, so many countries that have been huge heat waves and flooding. And so climate change is such a major issue, and we just don't seem to be taking it seriously, which is a huge worry in the terms of what we actually know scientifically, and yet it doesn't make us wake up and try to do something. So I suppose that brings me back then just to, do the full round of the circle of mission. Like, what is mission in that context? And in a very broken world, a very unjust world, and now a world facing this huge climate disaster. So I suppose for me, just trying to make sense of mission. When I came here first, I decided very early on that I wasn't going to try to capture any Muslims or convert any Muslims. For me, I think the conversion was about converting hearts and minds and converting people to work together. And it comes across very clearly in the gospel stories where Jesus talks about anybody who is not against us is with us. And with us in what sense? With us in the sense of living out the kingdom values, values of justice and peace and care and compassion and love and forgiveness. And whoever is doing that is fully involved in the mission of Jesus, whatever background they may have. And it's about linking up with those people and working together for the common good, as Pope Francis says. So, in this era of the church, which has its own huge struggles and contradictions and all sorts of problems, Pope Francis, for me, is an inspiration in the last few years in all that he's trying to promote, and he's trying to promote those gospel values. He's trying to tell us that we need to be involved where the action is, where we need to have the smell of the sheep on us. We need to be of service to humanity. Otherwise, it's at nothing. And I think the whole synod process is trying to do that, to help people realize that this is what it is all about, and to realize that we have something very profound to offer a broken world in terms of those gospel values, which can make a huge difference in the lives of people and in the lives of the world. So I think that's what Mission Sunday and mission is about for me. Being inspired by those gospel values, inspired by the message of Jesus, inspired by Pope Francis now, to try to make a difference in whatever small way we can, and trusting that small bit is a lot, and that does make a big difference. And if it can be all added together, it will make a huge difference in the lives of many. So thank you very much for that, and now I'll hand you back to Mary.
Thank you so much, Father Liam O'Callaghan. Liam, don't go anywhere, because we're hoping that people will have some questions for you. It's just fascinating. It's shocking. It's wonderful from a technological point of view, us being able to connect with you so clearly in Pakistan. So we're really grateful to you for joining us tonight. Now let's take a moment. We have a piece of music. You will be our witnesses, a reflection piece with a few shots of Pakistan, and it'll give you a chance to input questions if you have them, but give us a chance to sit back and reflect on what we've heard.
You My peace is the gift I give to you. You will be my witnesses throughout the world. You will be my witnesses, sharing my word. And as you spread my message, know that I am there with you. I am by your side in all you say and do.
Thanks very much to Paddy Brosnan, who put that video together for us. Our next guest is Sylvia Thompson, and many of you will know Sylvia. And if I was to do her CV with you, it would be just amazing. So I'll choose 3 things to tell you about Sylvia. First of all, like Father Liam, she's very involved and has been for many years, and the driving force in many ways of our justice, peace, and integrity of creation diocesan group, our JIPC group that you heard Father Liam talking about in his country, in Pakistan. Secondly, she's very involved in TIRC, Tralee International Resource Centre in Tralee, teaching and supporting asylum seekers and doing all of that work there. And the third thing I'll mention about Sylvia, but as I said, it could go on, is I really appreciate Sylvia's regular inputs into Horizons on Radio Kerry at 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings, and Just a Thought during the week. So very grateful to Sylvia, and we could go on and on. But Sylvia, just before you talk to us about Missio, I will mention that you yourself spent 3 years in Peru on mission. So welcome, Sylvia, and tell us about Missio Ireland.
And tonight, especially, I'm wearing my Peru t-shirt.
Ooh.
I just felt I had to get into the atmosphere. Mission Sunday, Mission Month, is always in October. And it's our special time to think of overseas mission. As Liam said, we are all called to be missionaries, whether you're living in Ballymackelligot like I am, or Abbey Dorney, or County Cork, or wherever you're tuning in from. That work and that call is there for all of us. But Mission Sunday, we focus particularly on overseas mission. And we are called to be in solidarity with our missionaries. And what does that mean? It means, of course, that we pray for them. And not only pray for them on that Sunday, you can start straight away. And also we support them in their work, which means financially. And so on this Saturday and Sunday at all the weekend masses in churches all over the world, Catholic churches, you will be invited to make a contribution. The Pope has a universal solidarity fund for missionaries. And in Ireland, that is looked after by Missio Ireland. Missio, that word, mission, being sent. There's a Missio Scotland, there's a Missio Germany. That's the body that serves that here in Ireland. And that's the group that helps and supports our little local returned missionary group. That money is collected so that the Pope can decide where it should go. And where will it go? It will go to young dioceses around the world who are not perhaps being supported in any other way, very often being devastated, like Father Liam's, by climate change, by conflict. You'll see the little boy in the poster behind me. Children who are being exploited. There are missionaries there standing with them. Maybe they can't cure everything, but they're standing with them, showing, like the children so beautifully told us from St. Albert, that our God is a great big God. Yeah, I find that kind of emotional. So the previous work, what kind of projects do we support over there? We support all sorts of things: transport, vaccinations, caring for the whole person, education, spiritual, health, as Father Liam said, that lovely project in Lahore, always working for kingdom values. And of course, I don't just mean the kingdom of Kerry, I mean gospel values. Last year, it had particular kind of countries like Benin, Senegal, Kenya that we know about, and Chad. And indeed, one of my students, who's an English student, is a student from Chad who lives now in the asylum seeker direct provision hostel. Others of my students are not living in hostels, they're living in tents here in Tralee. So the Universal Solidarity Fund is what we can give to. How can you donate? Now there's a little slide there that will show how to donate. The easiest way to donate is, of course, go along on Saturday or Sunday to Mass and put your collection in the plate. If you're not at Mass this Saturday or Sunday, you can always give it in to your parish house or your parish office in the week later. Of course, you can donate on Missio, missio.ie, and you can also phone Missio, and they will guide you through it. So it's our big chance to show that indeed our God is a great big God, looking after children in Pakistan, in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and in all corners of the world. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and let's do it this weekend. Thank you on behalf of Missio Ireland.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. That is wonderful and great clarity there. Can we welcome back Father Liam as well, and Tomas Kenny, member of our diocesan team, wonderful singer and supports the secondary schools around the diocese. Tomas, I'm hoping that you've some questions for us.
Yes, I'm frantically trying to record the questions there, and I see more coming in now. Thank you so much, Father Liam. That was an excellent presentation, and great to meet you here tonight. Just a few questions. I had up to 15 anyway, so I won't be able to ask them all. But just the first one, which I thought was a good question: what has been your inspiration to continue your work?
Well, I suppose one would be certainly many inspiring people who are doing fantastic things against great odds. So linking up with them, working with them is probably one of the most important things to keep going.
Great. That's great, Liam. Yeah, I'll keep going if that's okay.
Okay.
I'll keep going. Yeah. Are there many more volunteers from Ireland working with you? And someone else just asked a similar, like, did the Kerry Columbans work in Pakistan for a while?
Yeah, there are two that offhand. One was called Tommy O'Hanlon from Tarbert in North Kerry, and he died, gosh, about 10 years ago. He was only in his 60s. So he was there for many years. And there was a Jim Fleming from Castle Island. He's in England now, but he was there for, I'd say, 10 or plus years as well. So those are the two Kerry men that I know offhand. Lay volunteers. About 15 years ago, I was involved in another disaster. There was an earthquake in 2005, and we built a number of houses up on the mountain, and there was two volunteers from Kerry, from Dua in North Kerry as well, Kieran Quirk and James Doughton. They were out for about 6 months helping on that project. There was a presentation Sister Kathleen, I've forgotten her name now, Sister Kathleen. She was the one who was the link person. She worked there in Dua with Father Pat Moore.
Would she have been Kathleen Quinlan?
She would indeed.
Quinlan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Great woman. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Liam. I'll ask a few more if that's okay. I think I have time, Mary, do I?
Yes,
Yeah,
do.
okay. So just someone commented on how Pakistan is a very patriarchal society, and they were just asking, is there much progress made for women to be empowered and to have their voice?
A little, I would say, and certainly not enough. It certainly is a very patriarchal society. There's no doubt about that. Very male dominated, and even in the rural areas, there would be discrimination in terms of education. So very often there's more boys in schools than girls, and So I would say very patriarchal, and very slow to change, especially in the rural areas. Again, education is one of the best ways to try and change those attitudes. Getting girls educated is crucial, and where they are often way ahead of the boys in education. So I would say a little improvement, but very not near enough, and still very, very far behind in that regard.
Okay, thanks, Liam. Thanks. Another very good question about a pathway into mission work. A young gentleman there just asked, what's the easiest pathway to get into mission work if you're interested?
Yeah, again, the obvious ways, I suppose, are missionary vocations like sisters or priests. I suppose the traditional way is obviously becoming very, very scarce in the Western world. The Columbans back in about 1990 started a lay mission program where lay people are on mission with Columbans in partnership for a 3-year contract period. It can be extended to 6 years and now long term. So you have long term lay missionaries who have been working for many, many years on mission. So there's about, I think, 50 lay missionaries across the world, the Columban lay missionaries, and that's a very viable way that many groups have lay missionaries on mission. There's also a program of a shorter period where people can come on mission for a shorter period to experience mission, and they're I suppose searching for new ways in which to involve people in that whole area. But I suppose those are the main ways that volunteers as lay missionaries are as religious.
Thanks, Liam. Thanks. Have I time for one more?
Oh, Tomas, yes, because we were
Good.
delighted with the interest in your work, Liam. It's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff. Just going back to the climate crisis, Liam, one of our listeners has asked, does the climate crisis help or hinder interfaith relations? Do you find that Muslims and Christians come together more given the crisis that we're in? Or does it hinder interfaith relations?
Again, I suppose, to be honest, it's a mixed bag. In the recent months, in the crisis of the flooding recent months, there's been amazing things happening in terms of just fantastic community spirits, fantastic generosity, people coming together and donating all sorts of goods and foods, distributing food rations to people on the side of the road. And that's been done very generously to all people in many cases. And yet, on the other hand, there has been stories and experiences of discrimination where people, certain religions and certain sects have been discriminated against. So even in a time of crisis, it's still there. So I think it's a mixed reality. But again, primarily my experience in the last few months has been good in that it has brought about a very positive response, a very generous response from all sorts of people in all sorts of ways. And there has been just a generosity to whoever they met who was suffering, and it didn't matter their background. So I would say primarily yes, and yet the other is there in the background as well.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Liam.
Tomas, one more. You can give us a final question.
Great. I was hoping you'd say that. I wasn't going to ask.
Delighted with the interest now.
Yeah, so. And there are, yeah. So this is a great one to finish with. Maybe how can we develop a new understanding of mission here in Ireland? In Ireland, we are inclined to think of the mission as something done by people somewhere else. But how can we come to a better understanding of mission here in Ireland? And I think you've answered this already a few times, but maybe to highlight it again.
Yeah, very often I think that we haven't really got the message of Jesus at all, to a large extent. To me, it's something really radical. That we have domesticated Jesus, and we have domesticated the message and with an over piety and all sorts of but in actual fact, he was radical. He was challenging terribly unjust structures. He was challenging people who are treating the poor with disrespect. He was challenging the religious leaders, severely condemning them for hypocrisy. So in a sense, to me, the message of Jesus was really radical on the issues of the day, the poverty, the discrimination, the injustice. And so when you domesticate it, when you become too pious and you really water down the message, it loses its effect. And today, the crisis that the world is facing, the injustices, the unequal distribution of wealth, the climate crisis now, the migrant crisis, the horrendous, you have billionaires, 2,000 billionaires in the world and millions of people in poverty. So the Christian response of Jesus, as I understand it, the gospel message is really radically challenging that. And so in actual fact, it is in the power centers of the world, the IMFs or the United Nations or the World Banks or the corporations, where the real decisions are making, which affects millions of people the world over. That's where action is needed. And so there are many people working in Brussels or in Washington who are doing as powerful mission work as anybody in a third world country, because they're trying to challenge the power brokers of the world to be more just, to be more fair. The IMF, for example, is now the arbitrator of the world's economic system, and the systems they're putting in place are just dehumanizing in a sense, and yet nobody's ever challenged that. So in a sense, mission needs to happen in all those places. And mission, we talk about the flooding in Pakistan, but it's the wealthy countries, it's the China, United States, Europe, Russia, was causing that with their emissions of greenhouse gases, and we're not cutting back in any way. So it's the wealthy countries were causing much of the problem. So mission is powerfully needed to challenge those unjust structures and those power centers, which are so dehumanizing in their actions and in their policies.
Father Liam O'Callaghan. Liam, that is wonderful and inspiring, I have to say. I hope you make it home this summer to see your mother. You were saying to me that you're hoping to get out of the real heat and drought next summer. So we really hope that you make it home next summer. Absolutely inspirational. We need to make mission happen. I want to say good night from myself, Mary Fagan, from the JPIC Diocesan Group, and of course the production team, all of us involved in it here tonight. Can I just mention, join us again Monday, November the 7th for our November webinar. Our guest speaker is Brother Richard Hendrick, whose Christian mindfulness thoughts and poems are doing the rounds at the moment. I've even got them on WhatsApp. So they're very popular online. The night is called Welcoming Sister Death, the Franciscan Way of Dying. Very interesting. Fonagy Sloan, we leave with St. Oliver's children again because they were inspirational. Thank you to everyone, especially Father Liam, to Sylvia, and to our whole team.